There's usually a number that tells me. Oh, I'm sorry, looking at the wrong thing. Okay, so I want to excuse me while I do this. Talk a little bit about psychosis, since I recently had, I don't know if I talked about it or not, but I recently had some of that. Well, let me, I have to wear something on my lips or my lips look really pale. So I have, well, okay. I have had psychotic symptoms with my bipolar in both the depressive and the manic episodes, not hypomanic. That's kind of, that is a little bit of a line that helps me draw a line between hypomanic and manic. And mixed states, I have it as, sometimes. Can we ever just have one disorder at a time? I mean, really. I mean, I get derealization and depersonalization, which can occur as a result of anxiety, which I've experienced, and it feels one way. And it can also be the result of bipolar, the chemicals that are doing the bipolar bit. And the result is very similar: depersonalization, derealization. But I've had both. I've had the anxiety kind, and I've had the I have it more often on the bipolar issue. And I think it's because I have done a lot of work with therapists and cognitive behavioral therapy with my anxiety, that I know enough tricks and things to do to, I've been able to bring that down over a long period of time. And but panic attacks, when you start to get into a panic attack, you can get that sensation that you're standing in a room and you're like, maybe the difference is this: anxiety, high anxiety, you're in a room, there's a bunch of people with you, the room is small, everybody is talking and laughing. This is my example because this is what would happen to me. In fact, I can give you a very specific example. I used to go to this yoga class a long time ago, and I found it quite helpful. Going to the class was hard. the actual driving and walking in the door. But once we were doing the stuff, I was pretty good. Um, as good as I could get. And there it usually wasn't many people, a whole lot of people there, so there's plenty of space between me and other people. And then you have to get over the anxiety of a stranger touching you because they always ask first. So that's helpful if they are a true instructor. Um, and the class I went to was in the evening, and it had a low light, toned down, super chill. Sometimes we went out to eat down the street, and the people were so nice, and they were just so hippie-ish in a way, and that they didn't make me feel too horribly uncomfortable. I accepted the invitation for after to eat and would go, and they'd make me feel comfortable. So this was a pretty positive experience that helped me quite a bit. And then the people that um, did the class, I don't know, went off on some life journey somewhere. I don't know. And so there was a time span where I did not have yoga. And then I found out somebody else was doing the yoga at the same studio. And so, okay, I'll give it a chance. And it's more in the daytime, so there was more light in the building. And I don't know why that mattered, but it did. And I go in, and I mistakenly thought I would feel better, more comfortable close to the instructor. And she was at the very back. So I went to the very back, and I'm rolling out my mat, and I'm anxious. I'm anxious. And then all of a sudden it dawns on me, this happens very fast, that there's a lot of people here, and there are more coming in the door. I don't know them. The vibe is different. They're laughing, they're high energy. This is not the yoga I did before. I am overwhelmed. And before I could even process what was going on, the walls came. And it's not a feeling, it is a actual visual sensation. Not a sensation, and it happens. The walls come closer, the ceiling comes down, the room gets longer, and I see that I have positioned myself furthest from the exit. And the bathroom is also back there. And I would periodically use the bathroom as an excuse to go and give myself a little a little break, a little recharge, um, little breath exercise, and go back in. And from the looks of it, I was miles away, tunnel vision. My arms and fingers became tingly, and my heart just started pounding and racing. And I got like the floor was moving, like I was unsteady on my feet, and I was dizzy, like lightheaded. And so, and I looked around at these people, and there was this fuzziness about the whole thing. They were fuzzy, and their actions were fuzzy, and the room was fuzzy, and it was like I had been plopped into the wrong place. Um, like on TV shows where they show someone, they have like some guide comes to them to guide them through an event in their life that, and nobody can see them, like the past or the present, like the Christmas Story. What is it? I have been suffering, by the way. I am going to be talking to my doctor. My word and phrase finding has gotten extremely worse. My short-term memory is the worst it's ever been. There's something in things in my life are actually going well, and I'm still a mess. So excuse me if I take a moment if I'm trying to retrieve a word or something. Sometimes I just eventually give up or just describe what I'm trying to figure out. A Christmas Carol, and and they're taken to see their past and their present and their future, but nobody can see them. Well, that's how I felt in that yoga room. I It was a very strange sensation. I had no control over what happened, what was happening, the people, or myself. It had a little bit of the I'm watching what's going on and rather than living it, like I'm not really a part of it. And um and I remember I remember getting to the bathroom and then saying, I think I then came out and said I wasn't feeling well and took my stuff and left. But that was an example, um, uh, an extreme for me. That was extreme example of derealization. Now, I didn't think that somebody else was controlling my body, but I did feel like I was put in the wrong place, or it's so difficult to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. Or like, and it's like people, this is how I explained it before, I think. There's a play going on, and it's on the stage, and it's in the middle of the play, and you're shoved out onto the stage, but you don't know what the play is, you don't know who the actors are, you don't know what the context of the play is, and you don't know what your lines are. And sometimes you're out on the stage and people are, so that the one I just described is more, for me, is more anxiety like like I'm on a stage and I should know my lines and I don't, and things start to constrict, and um I um that was not the worst panic attack I've had, but it was really high up there. The other one was driving in weather, which would make anybody uncomfortable, but I'm gonna try to stick to, um, the topic of psychosis, because the reason I talk about, um, anxiety and having that derealization and sometimes even depersonalization, which I probably should tell you the definition of, um, that it is actually not it's just very disturbing to have out of anxiety, but it's not unusual. It's not, um, in what I would say, a dangerous thing. Um, Now, I'll tell you, I hope I get this right. Derealization is the sensation that your environment is, not real or is manufactured somehow. Um, Even though it's a space you've been living in or been around, uh, all of a sudden it seems strange and foreign and not real and possibly bordering on uh, paranoia that somebody has done something to your space. Um, and depersonalization is more along the lines of feeling like some other entity, a person or a thing or just anything, is controlling your body without your say so. Um, and you're aware of it, and it's very disturbing. Um, because you're observing it, and oftentimes you feel like you're observing it from up above. I get it. When I get it, I'm in the back of my head watching. It's like I have eyes in the back of my head and I'm watching it out this way. Um, and it's very disturbing because I'm watching what I'm saying and doing, but I'm not the one talking and walking. And I'm terrified because I don't know whoever is in control of me. I don't know are they going to do something bad? And I can't stop them. So we're talking psychosis. Um, Now, I've had, there are three main things in psychosis. Like I said, you can have these psychotic symptoms in depression episodes, especially the further you know, not so much with the mild. And then manic and mixed, it's kind of unusual and hypomanic. As soon as they die, if you have hypomania and you've only been diagnosed with bipolar 2 and you have psychotic symptoms, then you were automatically bumped up to the elite bipolar 1 disorder. Um, And there's the classics. There's the hallucinations and delusions. Um, Auditory hallucinations are usually hearing a voice, um, or sound. Um, and visual hallucinations can be very specific and well defined. Um, or they can be shadows, and like I had this sort of white thing that would go across my field of vision. And when I realized nobody else was seeing it, those things didn't bother me too much. The shadows kind of bothered me if I was alone at the animal shelter. And then, and I can tell you this, hallucin delusions are simply feeling very strongly that something is true that is not true. I'm terrified of delusions because as soon as you are under the control of a delusion, you have lost all control. You are no longer in control of what you do or say, or in any attempt to get better. Um, you're possibly going to speak these delusions to people. And then when you feel better and you realize what you've done, what you were talking about, crazy stuff, you have to live with the embarrassment for the rest of your life. That's the hardest part. Um, but people forget to add the depersonalization and derealization, but that is part of the psychosis too, and um, not unusual. I My norm will be where I'll have just a short period of maybe hours. If it's going to be a depersonalization, it's usually just a short period of time like that, like a few hours, and I'm watching from back here, and it's almost like I'm high on drugs a little bit, and then I'm watching my arm move by, but I can't. I don't necessarily recognize it as my arm. I'm going about my business and there's this thing and I recognize it as an arm and it's attached to me, but I don't know that it's mine. And I'm talking to people, but I'm not really thinking about the words or anything. They're just coming out. Something else is in control of them coming out. And that's very scary. When I feel that coming on, and I can usually feel that because, like I said, things get a fuzziness to them. I avoid people if I can and just let myself feel fuzzy alone. um, and the I specifically wanted to describe what I recently felt in the derealization category. And that is your environment with it. There's something different about it. There's something suspicious about it. These items are fakes. This laptop, it's all been altered and planted. Or it's like I'm on the set of a movie, and actors who are on a set know that the things in their kit, like just whatever came to mind was Everybody Loves Raymond. If they're acting a scene of putting dishes in the dishwasher, those actors know that that's a fake dishwasher. So for me, it's like walking into a room and someone has made my room into a set. It all looks exactly the same, but it's not real. It's not my stuff. It's not my stuff. And then I had that first, and I would try to do work at the computer, my laptop that wasn't my laptop. It just was a feeling I had. I had no proof, and I wasn't going to go telling anybody, but it just felt that way very strongly. And then over a series of a few days, it got worse. I started to, even though nothing has changed in my lighting setup, like not when I have my fancy lights, like these lights that when I'm talking to you. I could have all the lights on, but it felt like everything was really dark and there were a lot of shadows. And so like that came after the feeling that this room was, and it was just the one room, and I wasn't sure why, but I first felt like I just feel like these things aren't the same things. They look the same, but they aren't. And then things got shadows and dark. And I didn't like being in the room. I remembered that. And then lastly, I felt like there was a presence in the room, that a dark presence that was making that room bad to be in. That something bad was going to happen to me if I stayed in that room too long. And so I avoided my computer and all my stuff for at least another few days, I would say. And then I slowly started to come out of it, and I'm still not 100%. I think I'm a little too cluttered, and maybe we're working on that. But I think I'll feel better after that. But it was a very strange experience. These things aren't mine. They look like mine. They aren't mine. And this dark presence is making this room bad for me to be in. And so that is, and I was floating between depression and mixed. My moods have been really good lately, like this past week and stuff, but when I was having this problem, I was bouncing all over the place. Anyway, so those are symptoms of psychosis too, but they don't get mentioned much. The last time I went to the doctor and I said, "Hey, I'm getting that feeling that I'm watching myself and I'm not in control of my body." And my doctor increased my Seroquel and it poof went away. So I don't know if I want to increase anything because I'm also worried about it worsening my tardive dyskinesia. Anyway, I I might as well touch on visual and auditory hallucinations. Because they're not all, sometimes they're combined. Like I had this one combined hallucination a long time ago. I was still in nursing, so a long time ago. And for some reason, I felt like I'd done something wrong, but I hadn't. And that everybody was going to find out. And so obviously it sounds like I was already starting into some psychosis here. And I was for one shift I was floated down to the ICU and I just had to monitor this one patient's vitals and IVs and stuff. And I was standing there and I think I saw two nurses across the room and they were standing very close to each other. And one of them put her hand up, but for some reason I could still see her mouth moving. And she told the other one, "Right there, that's the one I was telling you about," or something along those lines, and pointing at me. I now realize that even if they had been talking from the point I was at, and they would have been, if they were there at all, I would never have been able to hear. But and at that time I was freaked out. It was my first hallucination, or I didn't know it was a hallucination. I thought what they said was right and that I was in a lot of trouble and I did something wrong. And it wasn't until I got out of that episode that I realized that it hadn't happened. And so I thought to myself, how do I know when things are real and not? And I realized that as far as hallucinations go, that like that one with the nurses, there was a fuzziness about it. And I don't know how else to explain it, but the fuzziness does not exist when I am not having psychotic symptoms. Only, yeah. So now I'm a little bit I don't take what I see and hear 100%. And it's annoying for people because I might ask the same thing more than once because I'm trying to, especially if it's, if I think, was that a fuzzy one or a not fuzzy one? How much of my life have I spent, hallucinating and delusional? Delusional is the worst, is the most dangerous. Now we get our delusions of grandeur, which is what most people uh, associate with bipolar disorder. They think they're Jesus, they think they're Caesar, or just up to someone who has special abilities an ability to understand life on a deeper level than anyone else can. I've had that a lot. A lot. And it can get you into a lot of trouble because you think you're so much smarter than the system. You're so much smarter than everybody else. So you do stupid stuff and then you get caught and you come down and you realize, well, crap. I'm just as lame as everybody else. It's a real bummer. But you, particularly if you're in a mixed, you can have a delusion that is actually negative and does not feel good. Um, Feeling like you're tainted in some way, stained, that you have an evil spirit in you, or and you need to, or someone else, and you need to exorcise this demon is the only way. Um, and some people are really obvious with, like, yeah, some people, right away that something, that they're having an off time and it's time to go to the hospital because they're very verbal about their delusions. And and a lot of times you can get by with, if it's just oh, I can understand this music and you can't because you're lame. But when you start talking like, I'm the god of music, or anyway, there are certain things that you can stay at home and believe, but if you go any further, you're going to end up in the hospital. But some people, see, I call them quiet manics, and I am one. I talk a lot, but I don't give a lot away. People think, well, she's a little hypomanic, just talking following people around talking. But a lot of the expression of my delusion, I write. I have hypergraphia. So you wouldn't know how far gone I was until you read the latest short story I wrote, or my journal, or entries on my Tumblr. Um, so we have found that I have had some very, very, very dangerous delusions, dangerous for myself and possibly dangerous for other people. When you think that, I'm going to word it in a way, if you cause an ending to your being because there is something on the other side waiting for you to, and all will be revealed. And you will finally get all the answers and finally be happy and never be lonely, and will always have a companion, and it's all over on the other side. So you're talking about some ideation, not because somebody is sad or depressed and wants to escape, but because somebody thinks they're going towards the light. So, and other things. I've had other things. So, now, the question is, there is a schizoaffective disorder. And I personally think it would suck. I really feel for anyone that has that disorder. And in case you don't know, it's like taking schizophrenia and a mood disorder and smushing them together. Basically, they'll have a mood episode that gets cleared up, but the psychosis of schizophrenia stays. Always. So, fortunately, when I am doing well, I only will occasionally get the derealization, depersonalization a little bit. It's been a very, 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 very long time since I've had anything dangerous. Well, I did have some auditory hallucinations there too. I had always heard them externally, like, excuse me, like a radio that I couldn't find to turn it off, and it took me forever to find out that it didn't exist. And hearing conversations through the wall that never happened. I was on a medication trying it for my tremor, and I at one point, and I knew on the side effects it said increased risk of suicide, especially those who have already had attempts and history of ECT. I was like, great, okay, but it was helping with my tremor. But then it made me depressed, like really depressed. And then one day, I heard a voice in my head, in the back. Maybe she's the one that's controlling me when I don't know who is. It wasn't, all it was a female voice say my name very clearly, but it was very disturbing because it never happened before. And it wasn't a voice I recognized. And I stopped taking that stuff like that second. Um, um, so that's an internal uh, auditory hallucination. And the minor visual ones, and I don't get this much anymore at all. I only got this when I was working at the animal shelter, and I really attribute a lot of my health problems to have been working there. The stress and the hostile work environment and harassment. But I I kept seeing this white little creature go across my field of vision, and somebody else would be with me, and I'd say, is there a cat out? Or all our cats in? Yeah, we accounted for all our cats. I said it was white. It looked like a rabbit. Nope. I said that like 2 or 3 times to different people, and nobody else, and it was always in the same area, and nobody else ever saw it. So I stopped saying anything. But I still saw it. It is like would scuttle across, little white cat or bunny or something, just whoop. And I would see the shadows, dark shadows, like here, the things that make you go, you know, but they never they never felt like anything or said anything or made me feel uncomfortable. I just got tired of jerking my head around. Um, yeah, so with I don't know, with bipolar disorder, you can have psychotic features, and what can happen is if you cannot tell someone yourself what disorder you have, um, if you're in a situation and for some reason you're out of your mind, let's just say, I used to be very conscious about saying words like crazy or phrases like out of your mind, and I don't anymore because trust me, some of the thoughts I've had in the midst of an episode were crazy. So anyway, um, they may treat you for like you're on drugs. They may treat you like you're schizophrenic, you know, and the treatment for a schizophrenic out of control and somebody with bipolar disorder out of control is way different. So that's why I do, if you do have especially if you do have psychosis with your disorder, bipolar disorder, that you wear some sort of medical alert that states you have bipolar 1 or whatever. Mine is on my watch. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see it. There it is. And it has the medical alert thing on it, and then it says bipolar 1 disorder. Emergency contact my mother and her phone number. Those are the two things and an EMT or a cop or whatever, those are the things they need to know right away. Don't do anything to me until you call my mother. Which I need to do an episode about what do I do without my mother. There'll be a day. What happens? And also my service dog carries a piece of paper that has my history on it. And I also carried a copy of that in my purse. So, okay. It's pretty late. I stayed up late tonight. So, I hope that I didn't get any symbols about my connection with. I have an announcement. I am going to be in Michigan from the 7th to the 17th. I am going to need support. This is a memorial for my sister that died in car accident. And they have a very big family over there. It's very different than my lifestyle here. They're very busy. They're very talkative. They're very outgoing extroverts. And it's like 10 days. So I'm going to have to take a lot of trips to the bathroom to calm down. But I'm not taking my laptop. I'm going to have my tablet, my phone, and so I will be experimenting a little bit on what the quality is like on the tablet, in the phone. And maybe when I have those posts, when I do those posts there, I'll put an email or just YouTube has private messaging, because I mean, of the few people that watch these regularly, I'm definitely gonna need help through this one. So because they don't want dogs in the house, so I cannot take my service dog, and that is what that's what he's there for. So I am a little ticked off by that. So, anyway, I am going to say goodnight. And I wish you all a good night or a good day wherever you are.